Today I am honored to interview my sensei, Mr. Buzz Durkin of Buzz Durkin's Waichi Karate School in Atkinson, New Hampshire. Sensei Durkin began his karate training in 1966 in Boston, Massachusetts under the tutelage of American Waichi pioneer George Mattson. Mr. Durkin opened his dojo in 1974 and since then has trained thousands of students in the New England area. He is the founder of the Uechiryu Butokukai, a group of schools with a direct lineage to himself and his senior students. He is a charter member of the Uechiryu Hall of Fame and a member of the World Martial Arts Federation Hall of Fame. Mr. Durkin is a Vietnam combat veteran who received his M.B.A. from Boston College. Mr. Durkin is a highly sought-after keynote speaker and the author of the book Success is Waiting, the Martial Arts Schoolowner's Guide to Teaching, Business, and Life. Let's start our interview with Uechiryu Karate 10th degree black belt, Buzz Durkin. Mr. Durkin, thank you for sitting down with me like this today. It's such an honor to have you here. You've been such an inspiration to myself and to so many others. You've had such a long history teaching and studying the martial arts. Perhaps we can get started on what got you started in your training.
What got me started in my training? Well, I was a student at Boston College, and it was during actually 1966 that the Vietnam War was going on, and young men like myself at the time had a choice of either getting a medical deferment, going in the Army, or going to Canada. And the only option that seemed reasonable to me was to go in the Army, do my duty, and get it over with. So I thought knowing some self-defense would be a pretty cool thing to do before I went off into the service and when I graduated from college. So my roommate and I, my college roommate and I went down and we looked at all different kind of schools in Boston and ended up at the Mattson Academy, George Mattson School. And for me, it was love at first sight. By the way, my college roommate lasted 2 days. He hated it. But I loved it from the beginning. So I thought that was something cool. There was also a TV show called I Spy, the original I Spy, with Bill Cosby and Robert Culp. It came out in 1965, and there were two secret agents, and Robert Culp could just karate chops everybody to the neck, to the head, to the leg, and drop them down. I thought that was the coolest thing. That kind of got my interest in it. So one thing led to another. We ended up at the Mattson Academy, and the rest is history, really.
Can you talk about any changes that the martial arts brought to your life?
Can I talk about some changes that the martial arts brought to my life? Well, I think it had a lot of very positive influence on me and developed me into the person that I am today in terms of my confidence, my ability to accomplish things, and my ability to stick with things, and my ability to persevere and overcome. I think I owe all to my martial arts training, my karate training.
And you pass it on to so many others.
Well, I enjoy teaching. I know what good karate did for me. I know how it helped me in my life, and if I could just pass on a fraction of that to others, it was my whole meaning of doing it and studying it is worthwhile.
With the career as long and successful as yours, you've taught literally thousands of students. Can you share some of your personal successes and triumphs as a teacher?
Well, my personal successes I attribute all to the students, and I think some of the successes can be summed up in the fact that so many people lacking in confidence come to a karate dojo and you see them develop and gain more confidence. Whereas conversely, a lot of people who are arrogant, bullyish, want just to fight and hurt people, they quickly change and become more humble and more aware of others. So I think the training itself is its greatest reward in terms of making arrogant people humble and introverted people more confident.
So what was it like being part of the early stages of karate in the United States?
It was very interesting. Like I say, I began studying in 1966, and it was very different than it is now. Frankly, it was just a bunch of macho guys who wanted to fight, and there were very few children involved in the martial arts at that time. And it's changed so that it's become such a family event, a family affair now. But it was a bunch of young men who just wanted to learn how to fight. And karate back in those days had some kind of, it was cool. It was very cool. It was one of the coolest things you could do. And it was cool because it was mystical. And there was so much, for instance, when the seniors in the dojo did the advanced kata, the junior students had to turn away and couldn't see the moves because they were so special. So thankfully, things have changed for the better, I think. And by that I mean more people are able to do martial arts training. It's not just for the young and strong. It's people from all ages, of course. And I think what opened up the floodgates for the children was the Karate Kid movie back in the 80s. I forget exactly what year. But that opened the door to all the children. The children doing it brought their fathers in to drive them to the dojo and their mothers, and they saw the benefits of it, and it really became more family-oriented than just young, stud-oriented, just fighting.
YouTube really made it hard to make the kata secret, huh?
What's that?
YouTube really made it hard to make the kata secret.
YouTube made it hard to keep the kata secret, right? And now everything is available on YouTube and wherever else you want to find it. You know, at one point in the history of Uechiryu, there was one set of films of Mr. Waichi. Some Americans, George Mattson actually, and Charles Earl from Rhode Island went to Okinawa and filmed Mr. Waichi with this beautiful 8mm camera, which was the state of the art at the time. And the only way you could ever see those films was to drive down to Providence, Rhode Island, sign them out over the weekend, and have them back by Monday. And but now, of course, it's available at the tip of a finger. You could see the good, the bad, and the ugly out there.
You definitely got a lot of footage when you were traveling to Okinawa.
We did, but we weren't as camera conscious then as we are today. So on my early trips to Okinawa, my first trip was 1971, 1979. The thought of having a camera and taking pictures never entered my head.
You kind of covered this already a little with talking about children entering into martial arts in the United States. What other changes have you seen take place in karate over the past so many years?
I think initially karate the emphasis was on the physicality, and the spiritual and mental and emotional benefits were secondary. And I think an evolution has happened, and it's really turned. So the idea of being a healthy person, a flexible person, a strong person, a stable person, a contributing member of society, those all attributes have reversed and taken over more than just being able to fight your way out of a situation. So I think when I started, it was the emphasis was on the physicality of it, and the real benefits, the internal benefits, were secondary and rarely talked about, quite frankly. A shift has taken place over time, and now it's just the opposite. I think the physicality, and certainly in karate schools, it's important, of course, without question, but the emphasis is more on character development, which the martial arts provides.
How would you like to see the martial arts community, or more specifically karate, progress in the future?
Well, I think karate is on the right track. I think the ultimate goal, as I understand it anyways, of karate practice is to make the student a better person. And I think that's emphasized more and more these days, and I think that's important, while not forgetting the essence of it, which is the ability to defend yourself. So the idea of being able to become a better person mentally, physically, emotionally is critical to the development of karate as it evolves, while not cheapening, while not compromising the essence of it, which is the ability to defend yourself.
Going along with that, what do you see as the number one value that martial arts training provides?
I think the number one value that martial arts training provides is it makes the student a better person. And I think the ultimate goal, regardless of techniques or regardless of ways to get there, is to be a better person, to be a better contributing member of society. And that's the goal, I think, that ultimately karate affords us.
So what is your favorite part of training, and how has that changed from when you first started to today?
My favorite part of my personal training is doing Sanchin, because the more I study, the more I see that every movement from every advanced kata is in Sanchin. So I feel it's my calling to do Sanchin every day, and so that's what I enjoy the most in my personal training. In the early stages, I enjoyed developing technique, developing a spinning back kick, developing a side kick, and that's all important. But I think for me now, the essence is just being able to do a spot on, or try my best to do as good a Sanchin as possible, and evolving mind, body, and spirit without getting too philosophical on it.
What would you say keeps you motivated to keep up your training after 55 years?
Well, people ask me that a lot. How do I keep up my training, or do I ever get bored with it? And I say no. I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing the personal growth of each and every student. I think the fact that it's so intriguing to me is the fact that every class is different. We may do the same curriculum, but the student's reception to the curriculum is different. The student's attitude is different every night. So the idea of every class is unique. Even if you have the same individuals every night, every class is unique because of the feelings and the emotions of the students in the class. So I think the dojo is a place where it brings out the best in people. People are on their best behavior in the dojo. People exhibit courtesy, people exhibit respect, people exhibit belief in themselves, confidence, caring, compassion. All of that is unique, is wonderfully developed in a dojo, in a good dojo. And I think ultimately the goal is to be that person that you are in the dojo out in the real world, out at the job, out at school, in traffic, getting groceries, whatever. So the dojo provides the vehicle for all these wonderful qualities to be nurtured. And ultimately, I think the goal is to be like you are in the dojo outside in the real world.
Can be challenging.
It can be very challenging, but that's what proper training affords that benefit.
You've traveled to Okinawa and China numerous times. Can you share some of your experiences training overseas?
The thing I personally liked about going to Okinawa was being a total student, not having the responsibility of any students, being in the back row, doing the warm-up exercises, doing the kata, sparring even, completely devoting myself to me and my personal training rather than worrying about a student or being concerned about a student. So Okinawa afforded me the ability to be a total student and to meet some very famous and talented world-class martial artists. And Okinawa is the birthplace of karate, so historically and traditionally it's a great place to be. China was interesting because I was one of the first Americans to go with my sensei, George Mattson, to China. And that was very interesting to tour with the Waichi family, to go to Fuzhou City and see the roots of Uechiryu and where it came from. And one of the highlights of the China trip, of course, was being presented the picture of Shushiwa, the person who taught the founder of our style, Kanbun Waichi. So a lot of good memories and a lot of good travels.
You've had the honor of having some of the Waichi family, Tomiyose family, stay at your house before. How was that experience?
You know, when it happens, when you have wonderful guests like that, you just take it as that's the way it is. But looking back on it now, what a wonderful opportunity. No one's done more to promote Uechiryu Karate than George Mattson, and he's brought so many Okinawans over to America that I've befriended and become friendly with that, yeah, we've had some great, wonderful experiences for a 2-week period. I lived with Mr. Tomiyose and Mr. Nakahoto, both lived at my house. I think back on that now, and that was funny. And Mr. Yonamini stayed with us for a long time, and I developed some really wonderful friendships. Mr. Mayamiya stayed with us for a while. Hirasato Waichi was at our house. Kansei Waichi was at our house. And of course, the highlight of our visitors was having Mr. Uechi Kanye at the house with his wife. It was wonderful. We had a wonderful time, and he visited the dojo and spoke to the students and encouraged the students to be better practitioners and not to step back one step in their training. So through my teacher, I've been able to meet a lot of wonderful karate masters who are wonderful people as well.
Many look to you as a karate icon. Who do you yourself look up to?
Well, I give all credit to my teacher, George Mattson, because I've learned so much from him in so many ways. And I think the biggest thing I've learned from him is to persevere. And I've never seen anyone with such dogged perseverance and love for Uechiryu as my teacher. If he just continues to persevere and try and expand and try and develop and try and enhance the practice. And I think that's a wonderful example for everyone, but it's really been beneficial for me. The perseverance and the stick-to-itiveness he's had, and that idea of just continually doing it. He has a saying, train often, train smart. And as we all get older, I think that's wonderful advice.
Okay, so a little off topic. Do you have any funny or weird experiences that have taken place in the dojo that you'd like to share?
No, I have no funny experiences that have happened in the last 48 years. We've had all kinds of funny experiences because we have all kinds of personalities come into the dojo like they do in any dojo. And, You know, the students may learn from the teacher, but the teacher certainly learns from the students as well. I mean, I've had a number of funny incidents. One that just comes to mind is we had this little 7-year-old boy who watched his first kung fu movie a couple of nights before the class, and after class I was sitting in my office behind my desk with my office door open, like I like to keep it open, and this little boy came running in, assumed an unbelievable karate stance and said, "Sensei Durkin, I want to test your skills." And it was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life. And of course, I jumped over the desk and took care of him. But all right, but no, I think the rewarding thing is the personal growth that you see in each and every student. Everyone benefits. There's nothing bad about martial arts. There's nothing negative about it. It's all good, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And it's just a wonderful way to develop human relationships and to bring the human spirit up to a higher place. So all good comes out of the dojo, and no negativity. And again, that's that type of person that you are in the dojo you want to carry outside the dojo. Like we say at the end of every class, take your karate with you. The white belts may not understand what that means, but the black belts certainly do. Take your karate with you. Be your karate. One story I tell in the book that I wrote was training in Okinawa one night and watched Master Waichi, Waichi, do his kata, most advanced kata, Sansei-ryu. And everyone stopped when he started to do his kata. You could hear a pin drop. He performed the kata beautifully. And when he finished, everyone went back to doing what they were doing. Well, the next morning, my traveling companion and I were going down to the center of town to get some breakfast. And who's ahead of us but Mr. Waichi and Mrs. Waichi? And they have grocery bags, and they're doing some grocery shopping. And like the mature martial artist I was at the time, I said, let's follow him for a couple of blocks. And then after we did that, we said, well, this is stupid. Let's go up and say hi to him. So we went up and said hi to him, and he was so gracious and so wonderful. We did some shopping together. He was so happy to see us in the morning. I get home to Salem, New Hampshire, and the students want to know, how was the master? Was he fast? Was he lightning fast? Was he strong? Was he powerful? Now, he was all that. But the answer I gave the students, I think a lot of them didn't understand. They said, what was he like? And I said to them, if you saw him walk down the street, you saw him do Sansei-ryu. What do you mean? There was no difference between the gait, the posture, the aura about him walking down to get groceries as there was in doing his kata. And I thought of that, and I thought he must have been studying so long that there was no distinction between the karate and him. It was the same. There was no false pretense. It was effortless effort. So if you saw Master Waichi Kanye walk down the street, you saw him do Sansei-ryu. And that to me was the ultimate in terms of not having your karate separate from the person you are, but being united.
So a unique experience for you was you started off at a smaller school in Salem, New Hampshire, and you actually built one of the first buildings in the country to specifically be a martial arts school in Atkinson, New Hampshire, where we are now.
I started my school in 1974, and for 14 years we labored at that one location. And my goal and my wife's goal was to always build a school where the students could be proud of it, a clean facility, showers, plenty of parking, and a place designed to show that a karate dojo could have its place with the finest gyms across the country. And so that was our mission, to find that, and it was a very interesting journey trying to find a speck of land, first of all, and building it. And talk about taking arrows. I took a lot of arrows from people who said, it's crazy, you'll never get the money from the bank. A bank will never give you money for a karate school. Typically, karate schools will, you roll up the rug, take down the heavy bag, and you'd be gone the next day. So we persevered, and I knew what I wanted, a freestanding building. And we did it in 1988. We built this facility. And at the time, it was one of the first facilities in the country for being built specifically for being a karate school. It was one of the first, and it was certainly the first in New England. So building the school was challenging, but it was worthwhile. I have no single regret in doing it. And even the people who fired a lot of arrows back then willingly acknowledged that it was a great thing to do, and it was all good.
It certainly helped push the style of Uechiryu and karate.
It helped push the style of Uechiryu nationally because no one, frankly, had heard of Uechiryu. Wasn't that well known, but through contacts we made on a business level, the school was promoted, and we had visitors from all over the country come at the time when we built the place to see what it was like and how we did it. So it was nothing but a wonderfully positive experience.
So you've written a book that not only talks about techniques on how to become a better school owner and teacher, but also how to live your life outside the dojo.
The book I wrote is called Success is Waiting, and it's chronicling my, at the time, 40-some-odd years of studying and teaching, and just filled with anecdotal stories of what happened during specific classes and the lesson I learned from each and every interaction, and hopefully those lessons can be germane to some other karate school owner or martial artist, or any business owner, actually, because I think it all comes down to relationships and building fine relationships with your students. And I talk a lot in the book about building relationships, and I think that's one of the reasons we have such great retention here at the school. It's not uncommon for us to have students in every class of 20, 30, or 40 years even. There are just so many ways, there's so many different technical ways to get to the ultimate goal of being a better person, a more capable person. That the way you get there is not as important as the effort you put into getting there. You know, and becoming a better person and self-improvement. One of my late dear friends, Jack Summers, a wonderful practitioner, a wonderful man, was asked, what's the one word that would describe the master, the great master, Kanye Waichi? And it was interesting. I saw Jack think for a minute, and the word everyone's waiting for the word he came up with, and the word he came up with was compassionate. And I thought that was so wonderful, compassionate. So here's this great karate master who in his youth could kick through banana trees, but he's remembered by being a compassionate person, and that always struck me and stayed with me too. So I think the idea of being a better person through your training, to help others through your training, to be a more compassionate human being through your training is wonderful and is an admirable goal for every martial artist to try and achieve.
Well, Mr. Durkin, thank you again for sitting down with us today. It's been a real pleasure. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in class.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about my journey. And all I can say is it's been a wonderful journey for me and for everyone else who studies the martial arts. It can be just so wonderfully positive and can help you in every aspect of your life. And I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak with you, and I'm happy to teach my karate.